Straight from Crooklyn, better known as Brooklyn. What's good, y'all? It's your boy Mixtape Moth. So, you know I had to show some love to Boot Camp, right? As they are one of the most slept on collectives in hip hop. So I decided to review the album that kicked off the whole Boot Camp click duck down movement, and that is Black Moon's Enta Da Stage, which actually turned 29 years old yesterday, October 19th. So Black Moon's Enta Da Stage came out in October in 1993. This was before Wu-Tang, Nas, Biggie, and Mobb Deep all dropped their classic albums. You know, the releases that people tend to focus on when they discuss classic 90s albums. Unfortunately, Enta Da Stage sometimes gets overlooked or looked at by some as just an East Coast classic or an underground classic due to its sales being lower than, let's say, a Ready to Die or Doggy Style. But this album was very significant in helping to shape the New York boom bap soundscape in the early to mid 90s. I mean, you could say that it helped put backpack rap on the map. And it made it cool for cats to rock fatigues, hoodies, backpacks, and Timberlands. Now, I'm not saying that folks didn't wear these before Black Moon, but I do think this album played a hand in making this look and aesthetic even more popular. This album represented hardcore New York hip hop. It was raw and uncompromising, and Buckshot was only 18 years of age when this was recorded, so you know he was coming with that lively energy, yet he was still wise and level-headed as a teenager. But getting right into this album, it was recorded at the legendary D&D Studios, released on Nervous Records. DJ Evil D and Mr. Walt comprised as the Beatminerz, produced all the instrumentals. The end result was jazzy boom bap that was a little darker and a little more aggressive than, let's say, A Tribe Called Quest. It contained 14 songs lasting approximately 53 minutes. But with that being said, let me go ahead and just hit y'all with this track-by-track breakdown. Powerful Impact was an explosive opener. The hard-hitting drums, horns, and Busta Rhymes' vocal sample was the definition of raw. And Buckshot was rapping like he had a point to prove with lines like, "I'm so hot, I shot a fucking fair one with the devil." It was just a rugged and rough way to kick off the album. Get on my skateboard and do a motherfucking drive-by. It showed that Buckshot Shorty wasn't playing any games, and he wasn't taking any shorts in the 9 track. Track 2, Dudes Talk Shit, was mellower, but still gritty. The blunted horns and murky bass line gave off that feeling as if you were driving through the streets of Brooklyn on a foggy morning. The chanting on the hook was catchy, and Buckshot's flow was smooth, but also rugged. I always liked his lines. "I'm no joke. I flipped the script like De Niro. I'm a full course meal. You are a $1 hero." Now, track 3, Who Got the Props, is their 5-mic masterpiece. This was the lead single that got their foot in the door. It's 4 classic verses from Buckshot and an ill call and response chorus. I mean, this song felt like the 4 elements of hip hop all combined into one song. It was smooth, hardcore, nocturnal, yet lively. It was a raw party anthem with a slick jazz sample. Track 4, Act Like You Want It, had some gutter sample based production, and the funky horns really depicted that early 90s flavor. And this was the first appearance on the album that we got from 5FT The Accelerator. Here Buckshot and 5FT gave us 2 verses, flexing their skills, and you had to love the intensity and the wild energy that 5FT always brought to these tracks. Next was Buck 'Em Down, a 5-mic song with a dark jazz sample, and it was on this record where Buckshot painted a bleak portrait of survival in the streets of Bucktown. To the weak, what we do, buck 'em down, word life, each and every individual whenever I'm in sight. Buckshot's flow was just immaculate over this chilly and moody Beatminerz production. It just felt intrinsically Brooklyn, like you could envision the brownstone stoops when Buckshot was rapping. Now, truth be told, as much as I like this song, I actually like the remix just a little more, although I will say the original was grittier, but the remix was more polished, no doubt. Let me know in the comment section which one y'all prefer? Right after was Black Smif-n-Wessun, which had a unique hypnotic jazz sample that was cinematic and a little sinister. I also really liked the vocal effect. Anything Tessman McLean Finnegan. And that's one thing that I always loved about Boot Camp Click as a whole, is they were able to cleverly mix that patois in with their Brooklyn lyrics so well. This record also introduced smif-n-wessun, who roughly 2 years later would drop their debut album, Da Shining. But Tech set it off with some memorable bars. I keep a black smif-n-wessun in my polo jacket. It just gave you a raw visual of those times. Track 7, sung Get Wreck, is the one and only 5FT solo. He caught wreck over a neck snapping Lynn Collins sample, and this song just embodied the early 90s New York energy. But I would have to say it is my least favorite from the album. It would probably be the one that I skip, in all honesty. The following, Make Money, is a dark money-making anthem where Buckshot was talking about scheming and even doing stick-ups to make some bread. I like the eerie, back alley, lo-fi aesthetic to this record. It sounded like it was recorded in a sewer or dingy basement. The subsequent song, Slave, is by far the most introspective on the album, and this is where Buckshot declares his unwillingness to be a slave for the record labels, with lines like, I peep how the radio be trying to take control, telling me to get a little lighter on my lyrics, but if it ain't real on the mic, I can't feel it. And here Buckshot was getting to the essence of what Boot Camp and Duck Down stood for, which was never selling out. You know, commercial raps get the gun clap day after day. And even though Boot Camp would go on to polish their sound somewhat with the live instrumentation found on their debut album, For the People, they never blatantly sold out or veered drastically from their formula. Track 10, I Got You Open, is the epitome of raw, unadulterated boom bap. It's bass heavy, up-tempo, jazzy, dusty, and dirty. This was one of their singles that was later remixed. The remix was amazing, but it took on a much smoother tone. The two songs are like night and day, really, so it's hard to compare them, but the original was more aggressive by far. But let me know again in the comment section which one y'all prefer. This had the classic Don't Front, You Know I Got You Open line. It was Buckshot in his braggadocio bag, flexing his hunger and his energy, you know, just snapping necks lyrically. It also had the All We Do Is Spark Mad Ism line, which would be used a couple years later for Channel Live's Mad Ism, produced by KRS-One. Track 11, Shit Is Real, was another cinematic glimpse into the mean streets of Bucktown, as Buckshot stated. Word to my hard rocks on Franklin Ave, feel the bloodbath of the aftermath. I love the sax and the nocturnal far away sample. This one felt like the sight of Timberland boots stomping through the NY streets on a warm summer night. Buckshot's vocals were soothing, calm, but also urgent and rugged. And he really had a knack for combining those different kinds of energies into his verses. Track 12, Enta Da Stage, was always an underrated and personal favorite for me. I like the obscure, multi-layered sample and just Buckshot's explosive energy. Jump up, all my dudes in the house, raise up your blunts just once. I'm bringing it back to the original crook, flipping the hook like I'm flipping the book. The second to last song, How Many MCs, was another single that showcases Buck's knack for braggadocio, and it had crunchy production and an ill KRS sample. Buckshot set it off with the noteworthy lines, I'm taking it back, come and follow me on a journey to see if a real MC, the mind tricks the body, body thinks the mind is crazy. It was another classic single that really highlighted Buckshot's flow, which was praised but also underrated slightly. Then the album wrapped up with one more of my personal favorites, You the Man, which was a hard as nails posse cut. This featured 5FT, Havoc, Drew Ha, the Duck Down CEO, smif-n-wessun, and Buckshot, all catching wreck on top of these drums of death, and the drums just really got to the essence of New York boom bap at the time. The chanting hook was simple but raw as hell. I thought everyone killed it. I liked how 5FT set it off, and Havoc had a grimy and punchy verse. Drew Ha, let's talk about his part. The ill Caucasian who said the N-word. Crazy, right? Now, I know it's 1993, but a white dude dropping the N-word in his verse, I do wonder if he got socked in the face after laying down these vocals. He probably should have. But yeah, this was a perfect song to close out the album with. So obviously this is a classic 5 mic album. As I mentioned earlier, it didn't receive as much praise as the other albums that would arrive shortly after did, but it is highly respected by the culture. It's one of those, if you know, you know. And I've never really heard too many things bad about it other than, you know, some people viewed it as just an East Coast classic or strictly an underground classic. And while both could be true, these labels do divide, and I personally think that this album should be looked at in a light similar to albums like Low End Theory, Illmatic, The Infamous, Ready to Die, etc. But let me know in the comment section if you consider Black Moon's Enta Da Stage to be a universal classic or an album that should just be looked at as an East Coast classic or an underground classic. It's your boy Mixtape Moth. I'm signing out, but be sure to hit that like button and please subscribe. As always, it's peace and blessings. Black Moon Enta Da Stage, turned 29 years old. 1.